Duda here on camera, he isn't too happy.
No.
And he's thinking about it. He's lifting his head up. He's trying to remember the position. He's got to put it behind him. And I think he will be able to.
And Danya, as we know very well from playing, over the board tournaments, even when you have one round in a day, sometimes you get a position, you're like, wait, this reminds me of 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬 from 2016, right? We remember our games. And so we're like, wait, should I do this or that? When you're playing games back to back to back to back, you don't have time to get those thoughts out of your head. You're like, wait, that game I just played, did I miss the checkmate? I mean, his king was on h3. Was there something there? And you're distracting yourself from the game at hand, and that makes you honestly play worse chess most of the time.
And chess players are obsessive like that. It might from the side, and by the way, knight g5 is interesting, but from the side, it might seem, well, what's so difficult about just not thinking about it? But this is what these players do. This is what their passion is. This is their obsession. And that is what it takes. And it's not as easy as turning an on and off switch.
Yeah.
And bishop b5 here might try to switch off that e5 pawn. But e4 and queen takes g3 has to be watched for. That knight on g3 is actually vulnerable. And it's in the crosshairs of the queen.
That's a really instructive tactic that Don is pointing out. The bishop on b6, staring not just at the f2 pawn, but pinning the pawn. So it's not just about the attack, also about the king being behind it. Knight f1, the retreating move. I'm still looking at e4 ideas, and he plays rook e8 first.
Yeah, he's cooking it up. e4 might be very, very strong. White's position is rattling on its foundations, and Duda trying to go after that e5 pawn, it's really the only point of contact that he has with Black's position. It's the only vulnerability in Wesley's position, but there's already sacrifices galore here. e4, yep, you called it, Robert. I think he's going to crunch through White's position if he gets e4 in. Queen c2 maybe to stop it?
I don't know, like, does it really stop it? That's the essential question that I think you and I both were like, not so sure. So I think that's actually very smart. White has this pawn e5 that you wanted to target earlier. Now it's well defended. So let's trade off some pieces because we're getting in some trouble. You can't take with the bishop on e3. That's a really important point because c3 hangs. And if you take with the f pawn, how do you like the pawns in the third rank?
I love them. They're the best pawn structure I've ever seen.
Tell us how you really feel.
No, they're awesome, telling you. Especially after Black plays e4 and checkmates White. Yeah, fe3. But can he... Well, you know what Duda's thinking about? Bishop takes e3, saying, all right, I'm going to give up the c3 pawn, and I'm going to go bishop c4 check. But, nah, that's too much.
It's better than this,
do this.
No, this is bad.
Robert,
really
bishop
bad.
h3 is in the air. Queen g3. This looks terrible.
Yeah, this looks horrible. You probably had to give up the pawn there.
You did. I think, and he was correct to think about it, but I think you should have taken the plunge. This looks almost lost.
Is there a single move like knight d4? This bishop takes h3, as you mentioned.
Queen h5 there, maybe.
Yeah, but you're just losing a pawn and then hoping for compensation, right?
Yeah, he's trying to use his knight for defensive purposes.
But can you still do it and then bring your rook to f2, for example? And just bring all your pieces in the attack?
Ooh. Actually, bishop takes h3, gh, immediately rook f2, sacking the rook, but that's mate if he takes it.
Oh, let's show that. Let us show
That's actually nice. He's going to do it.
You are just an evil man. If
rook f2 even now. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to show rook f2. Just king takes, there's queen h2, and the rook comes to f8. It's mate. But you're saying rook f2 even now if your bishop
even now, bishop takes d5, move the king away. No, too much. But that was interesting. Let me tell you, I didn't see a direct refutation to it.
I don't see it either, if I'm being honest with you, but I see that it's +5.
So. I know, folks. I know. I'm just putting it out there.
Probably just take it.
Yeah, no need for that because GH again, he has rook f2.
It's not clear. The eval bar went down after all these moves, so clearly Black has compensation in those lines. But he said, Danya, Robert, these are my pieces. I'm just going to recapture.
Exactly.
And
I'm all for that. You got to put the brakes on sometimes. Say, I'm up a pawn. I'm attacking. I'm going to go queen g6 here. I'm going to move the bishop away, even to c8, so that it potentially has access to the a6 square. And you don't want to rest on your laurels here if you're Black. If Duda consolidates, and by the year 2030, that a5 pawn, I'm taking a page out of Grandmaster Hess's book. I'm keeping an eye on it. If you get into an endgame nonchalantly, White goes c4, guess what? That pawn on a5 might be a pretty hefty price to pay. So it's not like Wesley is playing without risk at all. He's got to be precise, but that's what he's going to do. I think bishop takes g2 is interesting, continuing the trend of giving up pieces, but no, bishop e6.
Sometimes it's best just to say, I got what I came for.
Yeah.
Now let me not get ahead of myself. So this move, natural retreating move. By the way, Donnie, we have 3 minutes remaining in this time control. So unless the game is decisive in the very near future, this will be our last game in the longest time control.
Yeah. And queen g3 here is incredibly juicy. But the problem is it doesn't really threaten anything. That knight on h2, I wouldn't dismiss it. It's actually a very strong defensive piece because it's covering the g4 square. And that is prime real estate for the black bishop, and it can't get there. So Wesley instead deciding to centralize his queen. Maybe c4 he wants to meet with knight c3, getting rid of the bishop. Duda doesn't allow it.
Yeah, and the queen was in the same line as a rook. You always have to be on the lookout for that. And black has what seems to me to be perfect coordination of the pieces. Everything is doing an important job. Now, maybe let's bring this rook up to f6 and over to g6. He says, I'm going to bring my knight back first. And is he going to h5? Is he
queen
trying to bring his knight there?
Maybe to g4, actually.
Okay, to trade off.
Smoke out that knight on h2, which is the annoying piece. And we just wanted to take a second to thank, of course, Chessbra, Grandmasters Hansen, and Hamilton, the OGs, for their very big raid. Over 500 people joining us here. The Speed Chess Championship match between Wesley So and Jan Zhysztov. Duda, you joined at a good time. We are moving toward the tail end, the last portion of the 5-minute segment. We have so much action left.
Yes, indeed. Appreciate that to the bras. Good to see you. And, well, I'm not sure if JKD is so happy to see them at this particular moment because he would have preferred they raided when he was winning the games, not in this situation where, hey, this king is in trouble, white is a pawn down. But I just saw the EVAL go up to -6 and then back down to -2.75.
I don't understand why he didn't go knight g4 immediately. That move looks completely devastating because if white does not take the knight, well, if he does, he gets pinned and everything is lost. And if he doesn't, then rook f2 comes. I think Wesley's trying to finagle it and find the best moment in time to play knight g4, but I don't know if there's a need to finesse this.
Should he try bishop a5 just to attack something? And actually, if I can get my bishop to this diagonal, it'll be a good defender. But your knight g4 is coming no matter what.
Still, yeah. But still, I mean, okay, black is winning.
I agree.
But still, okay.
I just don't know what else to do. Bishop e1, maybe, just to defend the f2 square. It seems a bit sad. Everything.
Yeah, I don't see a move. Maybe you don't move the bishop at all. But no, that's a great idea. Yes, let's give up the bishop and allow knight g4.
Yeah, this. Look at the time. -4, knight g4 looks really strong.
But then rook f1. I think he's found the best of the worst. Because then, okay, bishop g. That's nasty. Whoa. This is over.
Over checkmate. Wesley,
g4, queen h5.
Too strong down the stretch. And there's 5 seconds left. So if this game is resigned right now, they would have a one more game. Nope. Time's
so
up.
clinical by Wesley. Bishop g4. He just finds the most surgical way of winning. Queen h4 here is just, well, then g3. Duda trying to give up a couple pawns. And again, let's not forget about that passed a pawn. Wesley can't just get into an endgame willy-nilly. That's why knight e5 comes to mind, trying to swing that knight around to f3. That seems like an interesting idea as well.
You're just a mean man.
He does this.
I'll bring his queen back to h4.
Queen h4, yep. And then knight e5.
Your point is very well taken about this outside pass pawn, because if you trade queens, that could end up being a bit of a problem for you, even though black is still doing very well. Right. So he keeps the queens on the board, and Duda trying to trade at all costs.
Yeah, rook d8, rook f4.
Okay.
Some intrigue left.
Pinning and hitting e4, and this a pawn, we keep talking about it. If you trade pieces, then I have an outside pass pawn that you're going to struggle to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. And great thing, again, Wesley's time management has been superb, and he's left himself quite a bit of time to think through these critical moments. But yeah, he's got definitely some, maybe rook b8 to stop the rook from moving away from the first rank, so that, because of rook b1. I think maybe rook b8 is the key. But then maybe bishop c3.
Bishop c3, pinning the knight because you're threatening the g7 pawn. I could buy that.
Yeah.
And what's happening here with the
watch the clock,
taking his time. He is up plenty of it, and he
This
trades.
is the last game officially of the 5-minute portion. And he
Okay.
decides to go after white's pawns. That makes sense.
Yeah, but A5 is coming. A5.
Yeah, but queen C... Yeah, no, I agree. Queen... Okay.
Ooh, that's a nice move, because if G6, queen H4, that queen is trying to snake in here. And you can tell that Wesley's not very happy.
He's I mean, this should never have... It should never have come this close, but knight e5 now. Finally, the knight gets... Ooh, and that is crunch. Knight d3, queen f. He's going to go after white's king here.
Yeah,
Queen
C4 is hanging
C4.
for good
Yep.
measure. Everything's a problem. So how do you...
Duda trying everything he can. I would play...
Queen e2. And then a6, knight takes d2. And then the a6 pawn hangs at the end. Knight takes a5?
Knight a5. Just get rid of that pawn.
There must be something like queen g5 or something that he was worried about. Wait, I didn't like that decision.
Careful.
Queen d3 check.
Careful now.
Lost. Oh, I thought he lost in time. It was so close.
Oh, and he
Queen
will.
D7?
Oh, he lost on time. This is not clear.
No, it wasn't clear
Oh
at
my
all.
goodness. Queen d7, queen c7.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
back in the game.
He
lost
right
on
back
time.
in the game because
Oh,
he
my
has an outside
lands.
pass pawn.
Oh, my lands. I know this is crazy, but these positions can be lost. But in a perpetual attempt there with queen f4 as well. Wow.
Wow. And